about to leave. Already packing, come with me. I'm not.
Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. It's me, Isabel, here with my September wrap up. So my book slumpiness has continued. I'm still gonna have a high number because of the manga readathon, the 30 and 30 that Shay and I hosted. But I just wanted to talk about the fact that I am still like in a weird slump. I'm definitely leaning more audio lately than anything else. Part of which will come up in a video later where I talk about my Kindle Oasis after 6 months. There's some problems, but it's fine. Anyways, I wanted to go through all the books I read. As always, this will be my video with all the stats and then everything I read since the second half of the month, which is not a lot. So I will have links down below to my mid-month wrap-up if you want full details on those books, as well as links to any of the vlogs I mentioned and timestamps so you can skip around if you want. And also, as a note, on Tuesday you will get my manga wrap-up. Because I read so many for 30 and 30, I wanted to make sure that's a separate video. Not only did I want to wrap up 30 and 30, I also wanted to do a Q3 wrap up to talk about everything I read in total over the last quarter. But let's jump right into these stats. They're pretty interesting, I think. I read 45 books for a total of 9,323 pages. My average rating was a 4.12, which does not surprise me with how many manga I read. I read 7 titles from KU, 10 library books, and then the breakdown of all the books was 36 adult titles, 9 YA, and of the 45, 6 were ebooks, 8 were audio, 31 were manga. Again, not a surprise as far as format goes. And then the last stat I track is new to me authors and debuts. I read 9 new to me authors, which is great, and I read 3 debuts, so I'm very happy about it. We're gonna head right into my ratings. I will say I had no DNFs, no 1 stars, 2 or 2 stars this month. I did have some 3 stars though, so that is where we'll start. First, in the first half of the month, I read Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. I gave those 3 stars. I talked about it in my mid-month. It just lacked chemistry that I wanted out of a sapphic novel, so that was disappointing. I also read Girls Weekend by CM Nakasta this second half of the month, which I gave 3 stars. I think Morning Glory Milking Farm is a much better story. This struggled for me because of the fact that we had 3 POVs that we hopped from a lot, and there weren't like markers of whose story we were in. You kind of had to pick it up, so it took a little bit for me to like figure out each time who we were reading from. I would have much preferred this to be formatted as 3 novellas almost, or something like that with each of these characters' stories. I liked the sex in these. They're really good. I really liked the characters. I just didn't like the format, and that made it really struggle for me. I do think if you read Morning Glory and you're curious about L'Oreal, yeah, something like that, from Morning Glory, her story is in this book with how she met her boyfriend. Then I read Stolen by the Wolves by Alex Robinson. I think I finished this. I don't know if I finished this in the first half of the month or the second half. Hold on. Okay, it was the second half. So this is a fantasy Omegaverse. I read this in my Hia Booktube's reading vlog. She DNF'd it, and this is definitely, it is Omegaverse, but like book 1 like barely touches the surface of Omegaverse, and it seems like book 2 and 3 are really gonna dive further in. I'm holding to read book 2 and 3 until we have the 3rd book released, so I could read them both back to back probably. Go into these expecting fantasy, lighter romance for the first book, and I'm hoping to see more develop as we go, but I'm very intrigued by it. I definitely like the setting, the world building that's happening, and I'm curious to see how the whole Omegaverse portion of this unfolds, of course, but we've got a little time before that happens. So yeah, it was good. Next for my 4 stars. From the previous month, we have Take It by Shay Sanders, Chastely Bitten by Lexi C. Foss, and both of those were great. Those are in my mid-month wrap-up if you're curious. And then for the new 4 stars that I read The Dare by Harley LaRue. This was for my 24-hour partner picks my TBR, but it was Tamika's partner picking my TBR. Like, we swapped TBRs and had our partners pick each other's. And The Dare was so good. There's a lot of content warnings on that book, and I'm gonna recommend you check them out before you pick the book up. You cannot buy this book on Amazon anymore. You do have to buy it physically through Barnes & Noble, or you have to get it on Eden Books or the author's website. I think she might have a pay hit. I'm not sure. So I will link to it specifically for y'all in the description box if you're curious. This is a dark romance set with 2 former high school enemies. He was the goth guy, she was the prissy princess type, and it's them making bets. It has a very juvenile opening. It's very weird in the beginning. It's a hard one to rate also because it's kind of just really strange, but in a way that I like love, because I love weird books like this. I love books that explore kinks in different ways, and this definitely has a lot of kinks in it. One big kink in this is degradation, and also like master slave stuff, kind of. And he's like ordering her around, making her crawl around. It's a lot, but it was really good, and it made me even more excited to read Her Soul to Take this month. But yeah, the Dare is definitely one that, like, proceed with caution. Check those content warnings first. I'm literally like, it was like a page of them. If you need them, let me know. I will take a picture and post it. I'll send it to you on Instagram. I just know that, like, I can't list them all here. It will take me too long. So just proceed with caution on that, because this book is a lot, but I really, really liked it. The next one I read was The Heart Principle by Helen Wong. This is such an interesting book. I would love to see what this story looked like before the second round of edits / changes happened, because this is not a romance. This is a fiction book with romance elements, and on that standing, it isn't a spectacular book. I would give it 5 stars. On the romance part, I would give it 3, which is how we ended up at a 4. Because I just think that we spent too much time with a couple apart. We definitely were seeing a lot of internal struggles. This follows Quan and Anna. Anna is a violinist who went viral, and then it turns into her dealing with burnout, finding out she's autistic, and also dealing with the death of a parent, and it involves a lot of caregiving to that parent who is passing from cancer. It is not a bad book. If you go in knowing it's more fiction than romance, I think you'll be okay, but take those content warnings with a heavy, heavy hand, because it is a lot. I cried, and we all know I don't cry very often during my books, so you know it was a lot. I got misty-eyed quite a few times, but I really loved the discussion around burnout in this book and getting a diagnosis as an adult, because so many people I know got diagnosed as adults, and just that feeling of like finding out what is going on. And an explanation for some of the things you do is so rewarding. I think I definitely, someone with ADHD, find it's very different than, it's neurodivergent as well, like autism. As an adult, when I realize certain things I do are that, I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense now, and it feels really, really good to like know that. So I can only imagine when you don't have that diagnosis when you're younger, like I did. Yeah, so this is definitely a like delightful fiction book that deals a lot with burnout and grief, and I loved those themes. But again, don't go in expecting The Bride Test or The Kiss Quotient. This is a very different book. Again, I would love to see what the other version of the book was. The author's note also is a great read. I definitely recommend reading that. Even if you get the audio, try and get it from the library, pick it up at the store, and just browse through the author's note. It's a lot, and it kind of explains why the second half of the book is the way it is. But yeah, this one, biggest content warning I have to give is cancer, death of a parent, burnout, family rejecting your diagnosis, kind of family bullying you, forced oral. It's very brief, but yeah. I went in knowing everything, and I still left it feeling a lot of things, so there's that. Next, I read a really wild one, which is Games We Play by Dana Isley. This is a corpse husband fanfiction. I really liked this book. I did not expect to like this book as much as I did. I was like kind of dragging on it. It was the last book I read for my 24-hour reading vlog, and it took me like a little bit of the next day to finish it. There's puppy play in this, which is real weird, but it really unfolded pretty nicely, honestly, and I was surprised. I ended up reading it because the TikToks, the author posts were of the bad reviews, and they were cracking me up. The puppy play wasn't for me, but if it's for you, you might enjoy it. It's definitely something I don't think I've read a lot of, and it was very interesting, but the rest of it was really fun, and I'm really excited to read the second book in the series because I'm very interested in this friend that we meet. But this was just a very like silly, fun, smutty time. It's, you know, it's very sexy, it's very fun. Big content warning for suicide, which is actually what knocked it from being a 5-star, because we had kind of out of nowhere this serious turn about our heroine's life. We kind of had a serious turn out of nowhere about our female main character's life and why she had moved to the West Coast from the East Coast and kind of disconnected from her family. And it turns out it was because of like suicide and eating disorder stuff, and she goes into description of what she attempted, and it's it just came out of nowhere, and with how this book is, it was around the 80% mark, just FYI. I skimmed past it because I just was not in the place for it personally, and it was a lot. Now, I don't think it didn't belong, it just felt out of place from how the story was unfolding. And that's not to say like fun books shouldn't also have serious topics. They absolutely should. It just, the way in which it was inserted was a lot. It was a lot. So just proceed with caution, but I still definitely recommend this one if you want a just generally fun time of a read. Then I read For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. This is a thriller. This is character driven, not plot driven, and I really liked this. We are in the head of some bad people, let's say. We're following Teddy, who is a teacher who's like picks a student each year and kind of targets them, and he like destroyed one of his students' like entire chances at getting into colleges because he could, and he didn't like them. He thought they were entitled, and it follows his journey of murdering people kind of, and how he does it. And it, well, not kind of, he does. He wasn't necessarily trying to kill them all necessarily. It's a lot, but we hop from his perspective to some other people's, and it's just kind of this small town, small private school bubble that is being like exploded out from things, and it was really interesting. I really enjoyed this. I really like Samantha Downing's writing. I find it very engaging. Even if I don't love the story, I feel like she always lands around a 4 for me at least, so that's nice. All right, so I have 2 4.5s for the month. So one was Sweet Hand, which I read in the first half of the month. This is a very cute bakery romance. This is in the BooktUbe's vlog. Then I read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This surprised me. I've never read a Raylo fic, ever. This is in a vlog that's coming actually after this of my trip to Texas, which is when I read this book. And this was a book that I couldn't put down. I finished it in a day, which I don't do a lot anymore. But I literally, like, we got home from the airport and I kept listening. Like, I could not stop. So this follows Adam and Olive. She is in a PhD program at a college, and she's trying to convince her friend that it's okay to date her ex because they're like perfect for each other, and like that she's not upset about it. So she ends up kissing Adam, who is one of their doctors, like who runs like part of the program in the biology section, like one of the sections of the department, the studies or whatever. And she kisses him in the hallway to like convince her friend that like it's cool, it's fine. And honestly, if you didn't know it was Raylo and you didn't know the characters, you would never know. You would never know. Because you wouldn't. Like, the best friend is definitely a certain character in the movies, and our villain is definitely another certain character that if you watch the movies you will know. But if you have watched the movies and you're not like in the fandom, you're good to go. This I definitely rank up with those Christina Lauren books that I feel like if it weren't for this cover, and again though, I don't know if you would know if you didn't know. Does that make sense? Or someone didn't tell you, but the cover kind of, I feel like, tells you that it was a fan fiction. Either way, this was a big surprise, and I absolutely loved it immensely. Like, it was so fun, and it was such an engaging enemies to lovers, like Grumpy Sunshine story, which is of course one of my favorites, like everyone else. But this worked for me in a lot of ways because we had a slow build to them like finally hooking up, and when they did, it was like explosive and really well done, and it just felt well laid out, which I think is something that fanfiction can excel at that sometimes traditional novels don't when it comes to the slow build. I think fanfiction writers are much better at a slow build often, which is interesting because I feel like normally I don't love a slow build. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this. I had a fun time with it. I think the secondary plot with the villain character was unnecessary to an extent, and I do want to say big content warning, and this is part of why it didn't gut punch me or surprise me. This Olive is researching a cancer cure because she lost a parent to this cancer, and it is kind of a theme in the book a little bit. So it's not like extensively the theme, but it is definitely there and present on page. So if you don't want to read a book about cancer, this is definitely not it, and I would skip on it. And I don't think it's being talked about enough, this little piece of it, so just an FYI. But yeah, I loved The Love Hypothesis. I like scientists in books too. Like, it's one of those things that I just really enjoy. I like nerds and love, like, it's the best. So there's that. Then my 5 stars. So we have It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, which I read at the beginning of the month. spectacular. I love Tessa Bailey. This is not a surprise. Then I read Evil Twin by Katie Wilde, which I gave 5 stars. This is about 2 sets of twins. Ones are princes slash kings and ones are princesses. And the evil twins end up together, and it's kind of a discussion of like good and bad, and are they really the evil twins? And it follows their adventure to their new land and them like getting married and like finding out they do like each other and they don't hate each other. It was just really, really fun. I don't want to give too much away because, again, a very short book. It's in my He of Booktubes blog as well, so you can go watch that if you want like extensive details. But basically my summary is 2 evil twins think they're sabotaging the other twin and end up together, and then chaos ensues. It was a good time. I also read The Risk by S.T. Abbey, and this is book 1 in the Mindfuck series. It's 100 pages, and it is about a female serial killer who is romancing the FBI agent who just might be looking for her. Book 1 ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm very excited to read book 2 this month. It was good. It was really, really good. I actually could see myself like deciding to just sit down and read the whole series in one go. And I will note, I didn't realize, but S.T. Abbey passed recently, so I'm sad I'm only just now discovering her. It just makes me sad. But this was a really good one. I think this is great for my dark romance readers that watch me, and people like me who want it to not always be a man who's a serial killer. It's perfect. The last book I read was The Psalm of the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. I listened to this on audio. It's like a 2-hour at 3 times speed. It's a very short audiobook. This was beautiful. I personally have a soft spot for the Tor novellas like this, where they're like under 200 pages, really well narrated and kind of lyrical in capacity. And this follows a robot and a monk who become friends unwittingly. Like, it's definitely not an expected friendship, and they become friends, and it's their journey to go find this place where the gods are worshipped and like the monks used to go. And the monk is like learning a lot about the robot side of the world, the robots were like released from their labor. And then the robot's like learning a lot about the humans. Our monk is agender, and it just, I don't know, it was a really touching story. And I really just like, I put the audiobook on and like I didn't stop. Like, I just was immersed and loving the world. I think if it interests you, it's definitely worth picking up. It was just a happy surprise for me. I didn't think I would love it this much. I know Bethany over at Beautifully Bookish Bethany loved it, and that's kind of one of the reasons I was encouraged to pick it up. I really liked her review. So that is all the books I read in September. Drop me a tree emoji in the comments if you made it this far, or tell me your favorite book you read in the month of September. You'll find links to all those books in that description box, as well as links to Be My Friend anywhere on the internet, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distraction.